It's a new day, and I'm trying to pave the way for me and my peeps to get paid.
Greetings, YouTube. A line on this package from right here at the Green Thumb Gardening Channel, right here in Growth Zone 8B in Tifton, Georgia, YouTube. It's been approximately 11 days, YouTube. 11 days since we brought you guys our last video update on the Celeste fig trees that we propagated from cuttings here, YouTube. It's been a total of 67 days since we started our propagation experiment with our fig tree cuttings, YouTube. And as you guys been following our video series on our fig tree cuttings, you guys remember that or recall that we used 3 different propagation methods to propagate our fig tree cuttings. All of those methods, propagation methods, did indeed work. Some of them just worked a little slower than others, but they all kind of produced the same results, regardless of how fast or how swift the propagation methods actually took YouTube. But I'm going to flip this camera around for you guys right now and show you guys, YouTube, that in approximately the last 11 days since our last video update, a lot has changed, YouTube. And for most of you guys who've already propagated fig trees cuttings in the past, who propagate fig tree cuttings on a regular basis, may already know that once a fig tree cutting does develop the roots and begin to grow, they grow at a geometric rate, YouTube, under the right growth circumstances. And apparently that's what we have here in our high-tunnel greenhouse, because our fig trees have really taken off, and we're going to have to end up uppotting the majority of these fig tree cuttings within the next probably 30 days, because they're simply going to be too big and completely root bound in these 1-gallon containers that we currently have them planted in, YouTube. But at any rate, YouTube, I'm going to flip this camera around for you guys, and I'm going to start with our less developed Celeste fig trees here on the end, and show you those, and work our way down to our more developed fig trees down there, YouTube. And I'll let you guys be the judge for yourself, YouTube. Hang tight. All right, YouTube, what I'm going to simply do here is slide a couple of our pineapple plants back out of the way to allow us to get all the way down here in the back where we currently have our Celeste fig trees relocated at, YouTube. And again, I'm going to start you guys off with the smallest and less developed Celeste fig trees that we have here, and these are some of the ones that we propagated in our banana water. And you guys have been following the video series, you realize that we use the banana water method, we use the clear plastic tote method, and we use the soil and bag method when it came down to propagating these Celeste fig tree cuttings here, YouTube. Here's one of our first ones from the banana water method here, YouTube. Take a look at that. Bam! Isn't it lovely? This particular cutting chose not to produce its new growth from the actual cutting itself. It actually grew both of these limbs here from down beneath the soil, near where the rootstock is down in there, YouTube. This is one of the cuttings from our banana water method here, YouTube, and it is indeed looking good. This is the second cutting from our banana water method, YouTube, and just take a look at that guy. Look at the structure on this particular cutting, YouTube. It actually has 2 branches that have already branched out from those growth nodes, and it has a 3rd growth node here at this at the top here that will probably eventually bud out to and produce a 3rd branch, giving this particular cutting a more of a chalice shape form as it grows, YouTube. This is our 3rd from the banana water method, YouTube, and as you can see, it has that new growth there at the top, but it also has a bud right there that's opening up right there, swelling up, and has another bud right there that's opening up and swelling up for us here, and we're super excited about that, YouTube. This is our 4th cutting from the banana water method, YouTube, and check out the structure on this particular cutting, YouTube. That's that one branch down there that grew from beneath the soil down there. It has 2 buds that popped out from along the stem at different points, and it has a 4th bud here on this side at the top, YouTube, that will most likely eventually pop open and begin to grow for us as well here, YouTube. Again, today is day 67. If you guys recall from the video series, our banana water method, rooted method, worked the slowest out of all 3 of our propagation methods, YouTube. On to one of our cuttings that we plants that we grew using the soil and bag method, YouTube. I'm going to give you guys a quick look at what it looks like, YouTube. Just take a look at this cutting, YouTube, with this plant, YouTube. I mean, it has really, really, really just taken off YouTube and grown for us at a geometric rate. As you guys can see, it has those pretty deep green leaves. It has two more branches here, YouTube, that we're not going to whack these branches off, because we know fig tree cutters can wake these branches up whenever they get ready, YouTube. And we scratch down to the bark here, YouTube. It's pretty and deep green at the bark level down there, YouTube, on both of these branches. And they again, they may well just pop open and produce foliage here for us on these particular two branches. And if so, it'll really, really, really give this plant the structure of a more of a chalice shape as it grows, YouTube. But if not, we'll eventually just come back and whack those two branches off and allow this fig tree to grow this form that's currently growing in, YouTube. But just look at those pretty, pretty, pretty deep green leaves, YouTube. And this particular cutting tree here was grown from a cutting using the soil and bag method, which if you guys have been following the video series, you guys recall that the soil and bag method worked the swiftest. It grew the most vigorous, growing leaves and foliage. It really worked the best for us out of all of our German propagation methods here, YouTube. This next plant is a plant from our clear plastic tote propagation method, YouTube. And as you can see, while it is indeed looking well and growing well for us here, YouTube, it is not nearly as advanced in growth as the previous tree that we showed you guys that we used the bag and soil method. But it is indeed looking well, YouTube. This is our 6th plant from our Celeste fig tree propagation experiment. It's another cutting from that clear plastic tote method, YouTube. And as you can see, it has indeed grown some pretty deep green leaves, some extensive foliage, YouTube. And it's currently popping those buds open down there along that stem that we thought would most likely not open up. That's again another reason why we haven't trimmed the foliage on that previous plant that we showed you guys that had those two limbs that hadn't popped open yet, YouTube, any buds. This next plant here, YouTube, this guy's from our soil and bag method, YouTube. As you can see, this guy's really, really taking off. Got those nice green leaves, YouTube. I really like the structure of this particular plant here and the way it's growing for us. This next plant, however, YouTube, though, this next plant, I really, really, really like the structure on it. This is another plant from our soil and bag propagation method, YouTube. And let's take a look at the form on this plant, YouTube. Take a look at the form on this particular plant. You can see the shape of the original cutting. It's kind of at an L angle shape, 45-degree angle shape, YouTube. And this particular cutting developed branches from all of those points along this stem. And I really, really, really like the shape of this plant, YouTube. Some of you may be wondering why we growing so many fig trees. What are we going to do with these fig trees, YouTube? We already have a well-established fig tree in our front yard. We're not, growing these particular fig trees to add, to create a fig orchard or anything like that here, YouTube. We like figs, but we don't love figs that much to grow, that many figs here. We're actually growing these particular fig trees as stock for our Etsy store, YouTube. And we will create a listing for these Celeste fig trees in our Etsy store here within the next week or so, YouTube. So if you're interested in growing your own figs, YouTube, if you have a greenhouse, now's the perfect time to purchase one of these plants from us, YouTube. Get it in your greenhouse and you'll have a huge, huge, huge jump start on the grow season. By the time, the last frost date in your area comes and goes, YouTube, a plant like this will probably already be 3 feet tall or more, YouTube. This is our next plant, next Celeste fig tree, YouTube. And just take a look at this, YouTube. Bam! Can you guys see how well this particular cutting is growing and developing for us here in our high tonal greenhouse, YouTube? I mean, I couldn't possibly be more pleased by what I'm seeing in these plants, YouTube. This particular plant is one of the plants from our soil and bag method, YouTube. As you can see, it's far more advanced than a lot in growth than a lot of the other cuttings I've showed you guys thus far, YouTube. And we're super excited, YouTube. And another reason why we relocated our fully propagated Celeste fig trees over here to the left side of our high tonal greenhouse in the rear is that we actually have different climate zones here in our high tonal, YouTube. Believe it or not, the temperatures and the humidity levels and the airflow is a lot different in a lot, many areas here in our high tonal greenhouse, YouTube. Just depending upon where you're standing or where a plant or container is located at, what the temperature is in that area, what the sunlight exposure is in that area, YouTube. And that's one of the reasons why we moved our Celeste fig trees over here along this south facing side of our greenhouse here, YouTube, because as you can see, the sun's over there. It sets in that direction, it rises from over this direction and sets over there in that direction over there, YouTube. So our fig trees get, you know, the majority of the sunlight that they get around this time of the afternoon into the evening hours, YouTube. They're not burning up over there. They're not hot, they're not cold, they're just cool. They're comfortable over there in that area over there, YouTube. But at any rate, this is one of our Celeste fig tree cuttings from our banana water method, YouTube. And again, as you can see, while it is looking quite well and it is growing for us well here, YouTube, it's far less developed than the other cuttings, the other trees from our soil and bag method, YouTube. What I really want to show you guys, YouTube, is what's going on with two of these last cuttings down here, YouTube. We have 3 more cuttings down here in the end that I want to show you guys, YouTube, and I'm amazed. I mean, I'm watching these things grow on a virtually daily basis, but I'm amazed at just how huge these plants have gotten down here, YouTube. Just how huge these plants have gotten. This is our last one from our banana water method, YouTube, and as you can see, she is indeed looking fantastically well and growing well for us, YouTube. And now that she's fully established in this soil, she's really taking off and growing well for us, YouTube, and we're super excited about that. But these last 2 fig trees down here, YouTube, I want to pull both of these out and show you guys both of these at the same time, YouTube, because I am thoroughly myself impressed by the rate at which they've grown for us since we relocated them over to a cooler area of our greenhouse, YouTube. Take a look, YouTube. Take a look at these 2 Celeste fig tree cuttings, YouTube. Take a look at this. Bam! Can you guys see that, YouTube? This particular cutting already has a leaf on it bigger than my hand, YouTube. Can you guys see that? Can you see these huge monstrous leaves on these Celeste fig trees, YouTube? Again, at only day 67, YouTube. Are they looking fantastic or what, YouTube? I am thoroughly impressed by the rate in which they're growing for us here in our high tonal greenhouse, YouTube. And just judging by the way they're currently growing, YouTube, I'm judging that they'll be every bit of at least 3 feet tall, if not more, by the time we're ready to plant these out in the spring or offer these for sale to anybody who's interested in buying these fig trees, YouTube. And this, YouTube, is our most prized possession as far as our Celeste fig trees go here, YouTube. Take a look at this guy, YouTube. Bam! Is that a gorgeous fig tree or what, YouTube? As you can see, this cutting originally had 3 main branches. They all popped out growth nodes and began to grow new foliage, YouTube. So, as you can see, this particular fig tree, YouTube, is by far our most developed fig tree from our soil and bag method, YouTube. And again, although this particular branch hasn't popped out any new growth yet, we won't be just whacking that off yet, YouTube. We'll give that a while to do its thing, YouTube. Maybe it will, maybe it won't, but if it doesn't, Eventually, sometime down the road, months from now, we'll come back and we'll just whack that other branch off there and allow this tree to grow in the structure that's growing here on this particular branch up here on this side of here, YouTube. But at any rate, YouTube, at any rate, man, look at those leaves. Again, bigger than my hand, YouTube, at only day 67. And on another note, YouTube, I also let fig tree Mrs. Lori out of our front yard all this past season did not have leaves on it this size, YouTube. I'm not sure what's going on. These cuttings come from the same tree, the same source, you know, so I'm not sure exactly what's going on, but again, I'm super excited about the rate at which our Celeste fig trees are currently growing for us here, YouTube. We currently have about 6 more that are just beginning to pop that those growth nodes open and grow for us here, YouTube, and we'll be bringing you guys updates on those as they further develop for us here at the Green Thumb Gardening Channel, YouTube. But at any rate, YouTube, at any rate, our Celeste fig trees, YouTube, are indeed looking incredibly well for us here in our high tunnel greenhouse, YouTube. Back here in the very back here by our Beauregard sweet potatoes and our banana plants and pineapple plants back here in the back. They seem to be loving it back there in the back, YouTube, so I'm putting them back where they were. They seem to be real happy back here in this corner, so I can't think of a better place for them than back here in this corner, YouTube. Get these guys resituated back here. Yeah, YouTube. Yes, indeed, yeah. Our propagated Celeste fig trees, and they are indeed looking well in our high tunnel greenhouse, YouTube. Thanks for watching, and if indeed you currently are watching this video on propagating Celeste fig tree cuttings using 3 methods, and you're not already subscribed to the Green Thumb Gardening Channel, please indeed take this moment to press that subscribe button beneath this video, that like button, that notification button, and be sure, YouTube, be sure to share this video with your friends and family as well. Yeah, our Celeste fig trees at day 67. And we're impressed, YouTube. Thanks for watching.
Trying to pave the way for me and my peeps to get paid. Hit the bathroom, splash some cold water on my face. Okay, thanks to Sharp for letting this light you see another day. Herbal meditation, elevation is the booth. Ain't much of a drink, but they call this lie 100 proof. Ain't 1990, but this lie is about to raise the roof. Get tested, let me tell you what this lie is gonna do. I'm known for ripping hitters just like I did the last time, 'cause I shut them down every time I say what's on my mind. It was 8 years ago when I first hit the rap game, and way back then nobody really even knew my name. But it's a different time, a different city, different state. I started out small, but now this lion's heavyweight. Can you picture this? Sit back and watch me reminisce. I'm knocking haters off and I got your name up on my list. Lion's on the rise. You can see it in my eyes. I made aiming for the top prize. I know it's been a minute, that don't mean I fell off. Rap king of the streets, and yeah, I'm still the boss. Each time I hate the steps.